What's up, everyone? Welcome back. We are Team JVS. We are here with another review. We are here with Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 2. Yes, Cobra Kai never dies. And there's a
Let's
lot to talk
go.
about. I mean, the thing is, we're going to give you a little non spoiler, just sum it up a little bit. But realistically, we are going to go into spoiler talks, whether it means another video in the future on this channel or on another channel. But just stay tuned for that. But, man, I want immediate thoughts. I mean, considering the first part was interesting, how did you feel about this part as a whole?
They anteed up in every category in part two. It's one of those things like they upped the ante so much in this part that it feels like it's not the same season. Like it feels completely different. Like I'm not gonna lie. This second part had more hands than all the other seasons combined,
Mhm.
possibly. Like, good lord.
And
They
and I totally get where you're coming from there, because I mean, I feel as though the choreography as a whole too has kind of picked
yes.
up like 10 times. I mean,
Yes.
usually it's good, but here it was just ridiculous. And
They
the
cooked.
threats are so much bigger than just Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do. Like we have
Yeah,
been so kind of like taught, with this show that there are two dojos that are the only problems that we got to worry about. And
yeah.
at the end of the first episode alone, that they actually revealed something in a sneak peek that Netflix officially dropped. There is a whole nother dojo that's a whole separate issue,
Whole
you
problem.
know?
Whole problem.
And
Yeah.
it's just like to see the amount of threats, and it's like we've been building up to this for a while, and to know that this is the best karate tournament in the world, I'm
Yeah.
glad that a primary focus isn't just, Cobra
Yeah.
Kai and Miyagi-Do. And I think they do a really good job with showcasing different, the different groups involved, dojos
They
or
do.
countries, if you will. And I'm when I mention just countries as a whole, the music dedicated to each individual place, it's just
Yeah.
going all out. And I,
Yeah.
I want to kind of like pick your brain on that. Like, how did you feel about? I feel like it was a step up, not only with just the choreography, but like music and again
Yeah.
stakes and just where do you stand there?
The choreography is definitely better. It's to the point where I was wondering if it was the same people doing it. Like it like legit. It
Mhm,
was on another level. And it makes sense because now you're on the world stage. This isn't just like who wins the All Valley. These are the best in the world
mhm.
at what they do. Like everybody has hands from all over the globe. It's I really love it. And yeah, I did catch that they also leveled up with the music. Like honestly, it's almost like every dojo has its own kind of theme, its own kind of music.
Mhm.
And like there's so many characters and all of them have extremely unique personalities, but they did such a good job this second part balancing it out. Like honestly, they kept introducing all these characters and it was one of those things I was kind of worried. I'm like, man, we're hitting Game of Thrones numbers of characters right now. I don't know
Yeah.
if they're going to be able to keep up with it, but they did a really good job balancing it out. Like you got a chance, everybody got their moment in the spotlight at least twice. And so I really loved how they did that.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like when you go into a show, like we understand that they're not necessarily doing a 5 episode format. They're just stretching the season.
Yeah.
So even though they're doing 5 episodes at a time, it's still one big story. So it's like
Hmm.
usually when I'm watching a show and they only drop 6 episodes, it stinks because they have to wrap up so much in that short, span
Right.
of time. But going into this where we're only getting 5 episodes at a time, they are dropping so much content in that
Hmm.
short span, so much development,
Yeah.
so much pushing the story forward. And I honestly think a big part of that was due to part one. Because I honestly, me personally, I believe part two is so like far superior than part
Yes.
one. That's my opinion. I
Yes.
mean, I don't know how everyone else feels about that, yo.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just like to be here and to see how much of a step up that we've taken and how far that we get in this 5 episodes. It's just impressive, and it's just like I gotta give a shout out to the writers because like
Yeah.
you can only do
They
so much in
cooked.
5 episodes.
I
Yeah,
know.
and I felt like we jumped the gun diving into the Sekai Taikai at the end of
Yeah.
the first part.
Yeah.
And in the 5 episodes that we got, they really deliver.
They
And
did.
and 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 I'm not gonna say too much, but I will say that they remember this started off as a high school karate tournament. This
Right.
is far beyond that at this point.
But
It
way
is
beyond.
impressive.
Way
Mhm.
beyond, and they managed to do it and still keep you in check. Like, I never once checked out like, "Okay, this is just too ridiculous." It was like, "Oh, man, this is wild." Like, I
Mhm.
Cobra Kai's always been one of those shows, like, I feel like you either love it or you hate it, nothing in
For
between,
sure.
and I've
For sure.
always loved it from the jump,
Mhm.
and so seeing it on this scale and at this level, it's like I've just really been loving it. Like some of the new characters that they introduced this season, like I know like some of them in other shows. I've seen them in other shows. I follow some of them on Instagram. And so seeing them pop up in this, I was so hyped. Like
And
I absolutely loved it.
that's one thing that I'm really impressed with because not only are they, going crazy with the choreography, but some of the actors that they hired are professional,
Yeah,
like professional fighters. And
yeah,
we see that with the lead of the Iron Dragons.
yeah.
With the actress that plays Zara is an actual pro
13-time champion,
dog, and she's
world
young too.
champion.
This is impressive stuff. So to see like what she displays in these 5 episodes, like, it's legit. It's
Yeah,
not like, "Hey, we gotta make sure we angle this shot over here so we can get a stunt double to do that, cool kick for her." Like, she's doing
she's
everything, and
doing it.
it's so cool to see when
Yeah,
it's authentic.
yeah,
And I think that's one thing that they're really killing because I feel like even with some of the, main actors, I feel like they're doing a lot more. Maybe I didn't notice it as much, but I feel like I'm noticing them doing a lot more stunts than
yeah.
we had in previous seasons, and because of that, everything feels so much more real. Like,
Absolutely.
it's like and I really admire that. Like, we have huge fights where we have these kids breaking into houses like the season 3 finale, it's like, okay, we know that's a little far-fetched with them having a, full-on war in someone's house, or to see that school fight. We've seen school fights, they do not work out like that.
Right.
Like we know this, so it's
Yeah.
like as it's progressed, it's always gotten crazier, but it's still entertaining. And
Yeah. It's so
we
good.
do have some crazy moments in this show. I'm not gonna lie. Like in this season, there are some crazy stuff that's like that didn't need to happen, but it's still really fun to watch. The
They
show is just crazy.
they manage to up the stakes, but still keep it down to earth. Like this is still, and it almost feels kind of like politics where it's like two people, but them being at odds can s- affect the whole world. That's kind of how it feels because you're at this world karate tournament, but these are still boyfriends and girlfriends. These are still besties. These are
These are
still people
kids.
that were in science class
Yeah.
together. And like it's but they really do like they the end of part two, my jaw was on the floor because I was like, yo, did they really just take it there? Like it was yeah,
And we've had some crazy endings. Like, I still believe
yeah.
season two's finale was one of the craziest endings we could have gotten. But I think that this ending here, and a lot of you will witness it, is up there because it's like
Yeah.
we already know the tournament itself is high stakes,
Yeah.
but the result of what happens at the end is going to lead into something even crazier than what we've witnessed so far.
I have no idea what's gonna happen in part three, man. Like the thing is, I couldn't believe they wrapped it the way it did because the thing is, what they have done a good job of is I was thinking it was gonna be one of those things where it was like, okay, 5 episodes and it there's no sense of ending, there's no sense of story. It's just you just gotta wait. But they've done a really good job of like part one, part two, and then part three. Like you can watch it feels like even though they're a connected story, they've done a really good job of keeping them enveloped in their own parts.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that again I mentioned earlier because we had part one, it was really isolated, it was really separate than what we got here. But
Mhm.
then at the end of part one, we get that big jump to the Sekai Taikai, which again I felt like the pacing was really crazy there. Like we just
Yeah,
took that leap. But again, I at the time I'm like, okay, I feel like this might be a mistake. But watching this part, I regret those words because
yeah,
they handled everything
they did.
brilliantly. For a show that's been out, for as long as it's been out, they have not slowed down the pace. It feels like again we're at a point where it's like I want them to keep going. It's not like, oh, they've overstayed their welcome. They're still killing it. And at the end of the day, the fact that they're ending on part 3, I think is perfect because the
Yeah.
show really hasn't had a dry spell for me.
Mm-mm,
So
mm-mm.
to
I
see
don't feel
part
like
1
it's
have
like
it. No, for sure. And to see that part 1 have the, that craziness and part 2 get even crazier. The
yeah,
fact that we have 5 episodes left, I'm trying to picture how they're going to top this cuz with how they handled say episode 5, it doesn't
yeah,
really get crazier than that. So it's like I'm really impressed with what they did.
yeah.
I mean, I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. We're gonna do a little spoiler review after we film this, but I'm definitely excited to hear what you guys have to say. Do you have anything
Same.
else you want to say?
Man, I'm really impressed with all the new additions this
Yeah.
season. Like with the like you said, that new dojo they introduced, and then the other dojos that you get to see. Like these are all skilled martial artists.
Hmm.
Like that's what's making this so much fun. The fight choreography is amazing, and it's just a lot of fun seeing, like I said, these people we've been following in high school now interacting with like the best of the best. It kind of gives me that D2 the Mighty Ducks kind of vibe.
So yeah, I mean,
Which is
anything
funny
else you
because
want?
the coach team is the guy running the Sekai the
Oh,
tournament.
he's in it?
He's the guy that was the Team Iceland's coach in D2.
Really?
Yeah, that's him. So yeah, I just
And it's really cool because I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces here, and it's like, so one of the senseis, for an example, is a very very familiar face. He's been involved in a lot of things.
yeah,
They already released a cast list, but like such as
yeah.
like Mortal
Lewis
Kombat
Sant.
or
Yeah,
yeah,
Lewis Sant.
Shadow and
Yeah,
Bone.
he's
He has
awesome.
been incredible,
He's
and
awesome.
yeah, so it's been cool to see. But we'll dive into spoilers, um, and you guys can check that out. It will be posted after this, so go check that out. But
Absolutely.
of course, Keaton, where can we find you?
Find me right here on Team JVS. And of course, my podcast that I run with Dr. Emilia Brown, our podcast, Bat Therapy. That's bat-therapy.com. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Apple, anywhere where you listen to your podcast. We're out there and we would love for you to follow us. We talk about mental health through the lens of comics and film. We have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and of course, you guys can find me over here making reviews, and on top of that, over on TikTok and doing reactions on my channel with a lot of familiar faces from this channel. So yeah, but again, thank you guys for checking this out. You guys are awesome, and we'll see you soon. Peace out.